Hello folks, welcome to another episode of Who Says. This is where we get real about the US, China, everywhere and everything in between. Two superpowers, one global story. This week we're watching Indonesia, who scrambled to cut a deal with the US. They locked in a 19% tariff agreement along with some major purchase commitments just days after Trump threatened Jakarta with a 32% levy. Now, has Indonesia been saved from a bruising tariff hike? Or has Jakarta, as some have claimed, did Jakarta blink too soon, too fast? Now, we're going to be exploring this. I'm Melisa, Idris, and with me is Professor Thye, who has been studying US-China relations long before tariffs became headline news. Prof, welcome to the set today. It's nice. Wonderful. It's a different setting for us today. And I want to get your initial thoughts on the US-Indonesia trade deal. What do you make of it? Do you think this is a good deal? Who came out on top, would you say?
I would say it is a case where both sides could announce victory, and quite convincing. And if you wish to really say who blinked first, I would say Trump blinked first.
Oh, really?
Rather than Prabowo. You must understand that when on April 9th, when Trump suspended his comprehensive tariffs on the entire world for 90 days, when he suspended for 90 days, he said we'll have 90 deals in 90 days. And before the news 2 days ago about the Indonesia deal, he had only 3 deals in hand. One deal is the deal with Vietnam. The second one is a framework agreement with the United Kingdom and another framework agreement with China. Not as specific as the one that Indonesia. Okay. So for someone who sells himself as the master of the steel when it comes to making deals, he doesn't have many deals to show. So he was very eager to bring, to report more successes. That's number one. And Indonesia, for him, was a success on more than just getting a deal on trade. It's also a success in bringing Indonesia to what would be seen as within the US circle of friends. Because you must understand that just before Prabowo spoke to Trump, a week before that, Mark Rubio, his Secretary of State, the foreign minister, was in Kuala Lumpur for the ASEAN meetings. He said something very revealing, which is that Southeast Asia will get a deal better than most other places in the world. He said that partly, of course, to have a present to give to his fellow foreign ministers. More importantly, his presence is to push ensure continued U.S. presence in the South China Sea. And he's in search of allies to support the U.S. position on the South China Sea as opposed to oppose China. So when he said that we will be more relaxed, this is a paraphrase, of tariffs on this part of the world, he really meant it. And Trump really meant it. Which is, you must understand that in between Rubio's announcement, that will be easier on this part of the world because we want you to be our friends, Trump had also announced that he would put high tariffs on countries who are members of BRICS.
Yes.
And that's why he put 50% on Brazil.
Right.
Even though Brazil was running, even though the United States was running a balance of payment surplus against Brazil. So he promised to impose tariffs on countries in BRICS.
Okay.
If you look at Southeast Asia, only Indonesia is a member of BRICS.
BRICS.
Malaysia
member.
is still observer status, hasn't applied for full membership. Thailand also observer status, has chosen not to apply for full membership.
Right.
So only Indonesia had stepped boldly forward to take full membership.
Okay.
And was he punished? Clearly, he has not been punished. And this is because Indonesia is very important. ASEAN is very important to the US calculation in confrontation with China. It definitely doesn't want ASEAN to be on the other side.
Okay.
Of the 70 million people living in ASEAN, 30 million of them live in Indonesia.
That's right.
And that is clearly the single most important country and the country with the highest economic potential in the future.
Okay.
So when I say Trump blink, it is not only because of the future economic importance of Indonesia, it's also the present geostrategic importance of Indonesia.
All right. I love everything you've just said, and I think that opens up space for all the things for us, more things for us to talk about in this episode. But before we get into the geostrategic importance of Indonesia and this deal for the US, can I ask you about some of the chatter that's happening locally in Indonesia? So I've kind of fallen into the Indonesia Twitterverse, and some of the comments coming out from experts and even netizens themselves have been comparing the Indonesian deal to the deal that Vietnam got. So many claim that Vietnam got a far larger tariff cut, despite Vietnam having a bigger deficit with the US and more transshipment issues. So they're saying, well, actually, Indonesia didn't get as good of a deal as Vietnam got because the quantum of the cut that Vietnam, or the tariff reduction that Vietnam got, was far higher than what Indonesia negotiated. Is that just dampening, like raining on the parade, do you think, of the Indonesian deal, or is there merit in the conversation?
I actually think of it as a nonsensical objection.
Okay.
The fact that the reduction was so big. The reduction was so big largely because Vietnam basically committed to limit the re-export of goods from China to the United States.
Right.
Vietnam is a lot closer to China than Indonesia. So a lot of it was coming through Vietnam rather than through Indonesia.
Right.
So that large number was the large cut was because Vietnam has now committed to severely limit the Chinese, the transshipment.
Yes.
And furthermore, I think that the Americans have also pressed on limitations on Chinese investment in Vietnam. And the Vietnamese certainly have agreed to that too. So the important thing is, if you are going to be hit, who gets hit more? Well, they are hit about the same. One is 20%, one is 19%.
Just 1% difference.
But the fact that he makes it 1% lower than Vietnam is really a gesture of, yes, I think you got a better deal than Vietnam. That is a Trump signal, as far as I can see.
Oh, interesting.
And there are, of course, sectors that would be hurt by this trade deal. There are winners and there are losers. And what has been identified are all the losers. We haven't identified the winners on the Indonesia side. The losers are certainly most likely the food production in agriculture. Food production in Indonesia is mostly for the domestic markets. And if you look at the industrial farming of chickens in America, that makes American chickens cheaper than even in Malaysia and elsewhere.
Wow.
So the chicken producers in Indonesia would certainly be hit by this cheaper frozen chicken from Indonesia, from the United States. Then some crops like corn, the U.S. would be able to sell corn cheaper than grown in Indonesia. But you look at the other winners. The other winners are manufacturing products produced by Indonesia. Indonesia is a country that is still industrializing, and to climb up the value-added ladder, it has to keep on exporting higher and higher value-added industrial goods.
Right.
So that path is open now for Indonesia to pursue.
Okay. Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto, he said that Donald Trump was a tough negotiator in this deal. And this, I think, is quite interesting because of Trump's persona of being a deal maker. Talk to me about how you see this trade deal shaping the tone of how Prabowo would deal with the US. And I want to come back to what you mentioned about the US's circle of friends now expanding to include Indonesia. Indonesia seems to be in a quite precarious position, being close to China, being in BRICS, but now playing ball with the US over these tariff threats. How do you see this setting the tone for future relations and managing these spheres of influence?
Indonesia, I think, is leveraging its geostrategic weight to mobilize foreign concession to support its economic development. Basically, I'm not the business of saying who are my friends, who are my enemies. Everyone is my friend.
Okay.
And to deliberately say that I belong to one camp or the other camp is nonsensical, because on some issues I'm with one group, on other issues I'm not with a particular country. Like on Palestine, Indonesia is certainly on the other side from the United States, on the same side as China.
Right.
On the South China Sea, Indonesia is definitely on the US side and not on China's side. So he says, we look at our best interest and we take our sides accordingly. There is no blanket rejection. That is irrational. And Indonesia is particularly important for China and the United States, largely because Indonesia has always been the leader of ASEAN, but it's not a role that it has been able to play very much, because given the size of Indonesia, it is the natural abang. But it has never been played that role very well, largely because most Indonesian presidents, except for SBY, were not so interested in leading ASEAN because the leaders could not dominate the discussion. And why couldn't they dominate the discussion? Because they were not as fluent in English or as knowledgeable about foreign affairs. SBY was very fluent in English, but he didn't have much of an international background. Whereas Prabowo, he spent a lot of his youth studying abroad. Like, for example, he attended school here in Kuala Lumpur.
Yes.
And that was because his father was in virtual exile during the time. The father was a very prominent economist who was on a side that was pro-West and less pro-Sukarno. And so he had to go into exile. And as a result, Prabowo got a very international upbringing. He has lived in different countries, and he knows at least 2 European languages. So you could see that. And he has always had a geostrategic view of the world,
Right.
because he was a high member of the US military when his father-in-law was president. That is Suharto.
Yes. So you see this as kind of the direction of how U.S., China, Indonesia relations would be going forward. Can I ask you then what impression it leaves for the rest of the ASEAN countries? So when we look at how the Indonesian experience of this trade deal and the messages, the subliminal messages that have been sent by Trump and by Prabowo, what should countries like Malaysia take away from this entire negotiation process?
So very good. No higher than 19 now. That's what the first
That
thing
is
we
the
will have to say, right?
That is the threshold.
No. So our meeting minister Tunku Saifru now has a metric of 19%.
Absolutely.
So the important thing is before he talked with Trump, he was in Brussels. And he also reached a deal with the Europeans.
Right.
And whereby he increased the market access of Indonesia in Europe. They settled, you know that the Europeans have put on tariffs, if not outright ban, on palm oil from newly deforested areas.
Oh.
So if the palm oil comes from a newly deforested area, the Europeans would not buy it. I think they have come to an agreement on that feature. And that is good for Malaysia because that means palm oil is now, we have got a metric of what the bargaining could be now. We have got a good standard. But what has happened is he has preserved the principle of free trade. He has already done it with the Europeans, and now, as best as one could get free trade with the United States. And so he has opened the way for ASEAN to be able to take the lead in protecting the global free trade system. And since Indonesia is a member of BRICS, they're going to have free trade with the BRICS countries as well. So it's truly multilateral. I think here is someone who understands the external world and will be a guiding force on the foreign economic policy of the ASEAN region. There need not be a formal agreement on what the collective external economic policy is. We just follow Indonesia.
One last question from me that what I've been thinking of based on some of the feedback or the chatter that's come out from this trade deal. There are those who say, why did Indonesia jump to finalize the deal so quickly? Because the August 1st deadline is still some ways away, a couple of weeks away, and being so few countries having finalized a deal, did Indonesia jump the gun in signing this agreement or in finalizing this deal when it should have maybe waited a little longer, a little closer to the deadline? Why do you think about that? I mean, bearing in mind also the 90 deals in 90 days target, in terms of timing, did Indonesia do this right in locking in a deal before the deadline?
Now, what is the characteristic of Donald Trump? He changes his mind every now and then. That means that he accepts the right of other people to change their minds. And if someone else get a better deal, Indonesia could go back. And given the importance of Indonesia, I think he'll be able to renegotiate a deal. In other words, like, hey, you have not been fair to me. You know, now I'll move closer to China since you have not shown friendship. But the fact is, Trump needs to report successful deals. And the pressure is more on him than on Prabowo to declare a deal.
Exactly.
And because of this pressure on Trump to perform, he has to, of course, you could see what a masterful negotiator Prabowo was. He praised Donald Trump. He was a tough negotiator.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
And the only thing he hasn't said is he's also a very good-looking man, isn't he? No, but he certainly was as opposed to the Trump letter that we talked about the last time.
So,
He's a truly accomplished
yeah.
diplomat.
A masterful negotiator. Fantastic. So, what do you think this deal will do for Indonesia in terms of its economic development? Is there a boon for the economy expected?
Well, it lays this deal together with Indonesia's membership in BRICS and its agreement with Europe. It lays the basis for Indonesia to mobilize international support for its economic development. Because what's holding the country back? What's holding the country back is a serious shortage of physical infrastructure. Here you have got a country of 13,000 islands, and you don't have many good ports whereby tankers could come and take away the goods. They go by sampan to Singapore to be reshipped. They could have better ports in Indonesia. And the other thing is, you look at all these naysayers talking about the Bandung Jakarta high-speed railroad, and how it was causing so much trouble and the delays, the cost overrun. But now we don't hear any criticism about that particular high-speed railroad. It's a great success. There are now, high-speed railroads between trains between Bandung and Jakarta.
Yes.
That comes almost every hour, and it cuts the traveling time down to 1/4 of what it used to be.
I hear it's fantastic.
And so what we now need is a high-speed railroad from Jakarta to Surabaya. And you could see that given the density of Java, high-speed railroads is the way to begin. So building infrastructure is very important. The other part that Indonesia has to mobilize fully, it's the human potential. Just what's the advantage of a big country? The advantage of a big country is if we think of every country, that the potential of smart people, the proportion, in my opinion, is roughly the same in every country. Maybe 3.5% of any population have the potential to be exceedingly successful. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, even a smaller proportion to be Einstein. So if you look at Indonesia's population of 300 million, that means 3.5 means that Indonesia has almost 3.5.
300 million, then you'll
That
have
means
like
it has got almost 10 million
Amazing.
of very high smart people, very highly educated people. But they have to be educated. That's what it is. That's why Lee Kuan Yew say it's very hard for Singapore to really be innovative. Like Singapore now has a population of 6 million, 3.5% of it is 210,000. Indonesia has 50 times more truly smart people.
Yeah.
But of course, it has also 50 times more stupid people. But the truth is the growth is generated by the truly smart, and then they created jobs for the ones that are less gifted.
Right.
So Indonesia has to have real human capital investment. Prabowo's signal promise in his election was that he would have a free meal for every Indonesian student. That is because stunting in Indonesia is 21% of the youth.
Wow.
21%, compared to 10% in Thailand and 0.7% in Korea. And what is wrong with stunting? We now know that your IQ is about 15 points lower. That means that if you are stunted, even though you're given a better education later, it's harder to teach you. It's harder for you to learn. So stunting is the first thing. You got to have the guy to be capable of learning, capable of becoming an Einstein, the 3.5%. So that's why he put the emphasis on this lunch program. As an interesting fact is that the stunting rate in Malaysia is also 21%.
Oh, is it?
This is quite shocking given the fact that we are so much richer. Basically, nutrition education in Malaysia is truly lacking. That is the puzzling aspect of given how educated we are and that we can afford it, our stunting rate is at 20%. Same as Indonesia. They are our brothers and sisters, but this is a little too close.
Yeah.
But anyway, coming back to Indonesia. Indonesia, if you look at its universities, there's a great shortage of quality universities. So Indonesia has to invest in that. And how would you upgrade your universities? You upgrade it with help from the best universities in the world. And what are the best science and technical universities in the world? United States, Europe, and China, Korea, and Japan. Now, what Indonesia really needs is it has to invest in physical infrastructure, it has to invest in its universities, invest in this nutrition program. Where is it going to get the money? Especially for the physical infrastructure. China has the BRI program. The BRI program has spent $1 trillion so far. And to counter BRI, the Belt Road Initiative for China, the G7 has come up with the Partnership for Global Infrastructure Investment, PGII, $600 billion.
Wow.
So here there are two pots of money. And they will surely, the first in line they would give it to is the linchpin of ASEAN, and that's Indonesia.
Okay.
And he has shown he's a friend to them both. And he could not only just ask for money, he could ask for the following, like India did, which is that get each of the best technical universities in China to partner with an Indonesian university and bring it up to the level of the other country. That's why India is so good in IT, because its IIT each was partnered with a leading European or Russian or East German university.
Right.
So Indonesia could repeat that.
Wow.
It will, if you look at Institute Technology Bandung, University Pertanian Bogor, and UI, Gajah Mada, Airlangga, these are excellent universities. But they need extra help, especially in the science and engineering. And this is where you would have a China that is eager to be able to tap into the human resources of Indonesia as well. And if you train them with Chinese universities, they would buy Chinese equipment in the future.
Get them young. But that sounds really exciting for the potential of Indonesia. Maybe then they might naturally become the abang of ASEAN, or kind of grow into that role as abang of ASEAN.
Oh, I think that the very good news is our Prime Minister is a very good friend of Prabowo. We have very close ties with Indonesia. If Indonesia moves, we will be the first one to have great advantage in accessing its market. the taste, yeah, and the fashion,
Yeah.
we'll be able to be catered to that market.
Definitely serumpun market.
And we would be able to rise together. This is a case of you want all your neighbors to be rich, then they can pay higher prices for the goods they buy from you.
Absolutely. Prof. Wu, thank you so much for that insightful analysis on Indonesia and the trade deal. I guess that's it for this episode of Wu Says, where we get real about the US, China, everywhere and everything in between. I'm Melisa Idris signing off. I will see you next week. Bye-bye, folks.